Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Kids Show. Hope you're staying safe and doing well in this crazy time. I'm your host, Bryan, and joining with me are my very good friends, Mark and Nic. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing on this fine Thursday?
I am doing as I always do, and that would be well, my friend. Very well.
Very good.
Doing good, sir. I'm excited to get some conversation going today.
All right. So our topic for today is appropriate considering the current times, and many of you might be making and enjoying these as we speak. Today is a top 3 we're extremely excited to share with you. Today's topic is top 3 frozen pizzas. Before we jump in, let me go over a quick history of the frozen pizza. The invention of flash freezing by Mr. Clarence Burdeye in 1924 allowed the pizza dough to be paired with much better consistency and taste. This was the precursor for our modern frozen pizzas. Frozen pizzas have been around since the 1950s, and before that, there were refrigerated take-home pizzerias along the East Coast. First patent for frozen pizza was applied for in August 1950 by Joseph Bucci. The growth of the frozen pizza market was fueled by multiple factors, including many GIs returning home for World War II with a newly acquired taste for pizza after serving in and near Italy. On top of that, we started seeing more and more families moving toward both parents working away from home, which created a greater need for quick and easy meals. Also, we started seeing a larger increase in sales of refrigerators and freezers in the home, which allowed for longer and safer storage of food. Major advancement in frozen pizza industry was the development of the rising crust in 95 by Kraft with the release of the DiGiorno brand of pizzas. All of these factors have led to frozen pizza being a major staple in households across the globe. The global market for frozen pizza is projected to reach approximately $17 billion by 2023. So frozen pizza has always been something I've enjoyed and I associate with many great childhood memories, including having sleepovers with friends or cousins, birthday parties, or family movie nights. We didn't have frozen pizza often in our household, but we did. It was a nice little treat. The frozen pizza game has definitely changed since I was a young lad, and there are now so many different pizza brands, styles, toppings, and crusts to choose from. Now, frozen pizza is something that many go for those late-night snacks many times after having multiple adult beverages. Nic, you won the coin toss earlier, and we'll kick things off with you first. We'll have you begin with your third-ranked pizza, then Mark's, then myself. We'll then move to number 2, and finally, the number 1 frozen pizza. So here we go. Preheat your oven to 450, grab a beer, make sure your smoke detector is working, and get ready to taste the fun without burning the roof of your mouth. Here we go. Top 3 frozen pizzas. Nic.
Get this pizza in the oven.
All right. For the Nic pick for number 3, look, I have no idea why anyone would name a football game favorite a movie night snack after a World War I German Air Force fighter pilot. But the marketing must have worked because Red Baron is a household name. And the ace of aces, Baron von Ricken something, I cannot pronounce his name, is nowhere near as handsome as the Red Baron featured on the front of my pizza box. With his powerful mustache, goggles on top of his head, and his prominent red scarf, the Red Baron, the Baron on the box, is practically a frozen food selection icon. Red Baron has much to offer, but I'm going to go with the most traditional. That would be the classic crust pepperoni pizza. Not too thick, not too thin, just the right amount of crunch. This has been my regular go-to for years. And at the end of the night, filled with plenty of cold beer, one of these hot from the oven, doused with your favorite hot sauce, Magnifico.
Very solid. Hey,
all right.
Crunchy at that.
Yes. Mark, let's hear it. Number 3, buddy.
All right. So number 3 for me, I'm fairly certain that this is a new player to the frozen pizza game. So this isn't something that's going to date too far back.
So we got a rookie here.
Yeah, it could be. It could be a rookie on the scene, but maybe our listeners will correct me if I'm incorrect here. But the Donato's Pepperoni Zinger frozen pizza. So this one beat out, and I'm just going to go ahead and mention my honorable mention that honestly got booted when I remembered this one. I was going to go with the DiGiorno stuffed crust, but it got the kick and in favor of the Donato's Pepperoni Zinger. So I personally love Donato's pizza. I've always been a huge fan. My personal preference is pepperoni and peppers. I'm sure everybody cares about that. And Donato's been around since 1963. They're actually founded in Columbus, Ohio, ironically. But I'm fairly certain that this frozen pizza is a newer one. I know Donato's was bought out by McDonald's in 1999.
I did not know that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's going to be mine. It's got Donato's has that crust that's like a perfect mixture of some of the crunch, but then they literally just throw pepperoni on top of the pizza. Like they've got a barrel of it sitting next to them, right? And then you got the little mozzarella balls that go on top. And then whatever that zinger spice is, oh man, it's a winner.
So Mark, I actually have had that pizza as well. And my question to you is, when you compared to an in-house Donato's pizza, give me the comparisons.
It's not the same. I mean, it's definitely, we may get into more of this later. I don't know if there's any frozen pizza on this list that would beat some of the in-house pizzas, right?
Agreed.
I mean, not to say that they're not close, because I think they are close, but I don't know if even my number one pizza would beat a actual made pizza from one of our, one of the places that makes it fresh. But it's close. I mean, to be honest, I would definitely tell somebody if they've never had Donato's and frozen was the only option, I'd say you're going to get a pretty good idea what you got coming.
Chiming in here real quick before we get to your number 3 there, Mr. B. You mentioned McDonald's buying out Donato's. Remember when McDonald's sold pizzas?
Yes.
Did they?
Isn't that a horrific time in our lives?
So
I don't even remember that.
They did terrible. The pizzas were horrible.
Well,
maybe that's why I blocked it out.
And as much as I agree with you, Nick, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. It was like my favorite thing as a kid when I was like 8 years old. So I remember, if you had one, it wasn't a quick ready thing. So you'd be in McDonald's line. Everyone else would be like Big Mac, Big Mac, Big Mac. And then I'd be like, I'll take the pizza. And they're like, damn, that takes 10 minutes.
Right.
And they'd make you pull in the parking lot and wait for them to bring it out. And
I was going to say, I don't see anything fast food about a pizza, but it's interesting that the two folks that opened Donato's actually bought it back from McDonald's 4 years after. So maybe McDonald's tried to work that into their pizza plan and they were like, nah,
jacked it up.
Not happening.
Donato's is the Grody family.
That's correct. The Grody.
You win a bonus star there, Nick. All right, for my third pizza, is a classic, an all-time favorite, the Totino's Party Pizza.
Nice.
There's a million toppings, but it's just regular pepperoni. I see Nick is quite excited with a grin on his face. And Nick, you referenced this earlier, but Totino's for me cannot be eaten without Frank's Red Hot. It almost feels like it's an illegal pizza if you don't put some Frank's Red Hot on it.
I've never tried it with Red Hot.
Well, I can barely talk to you now because of that.
Been booted already.
But I don't know if you guys remember. So if you got one recently, they're square now and they're in like a bag, but they used to be round and in a box.
Yeah, that's how I remember them.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was just to save money, but it's just, it's square now and in a bag. But Totino's Party Pizza, I buy them by the dozen.
I remember ripping through that box was like ripping through a Christmas present.
All right, Nick, let's move on. Your number 2 pizza.
Number 2, Dos Unos. Let's go with, this is going to be one that most people may have not heard of. And if you haven't, let me drop some knowledge on you right now, my friend.
Boom.
It's called Outsiders Pizza Company. And I go with the Detroit style. Now, Outsiders makes different styles. I'm going with the Detroit style, which according to Outsiders Pizza Company got its name by auto workers using deep industrial pans as cooking equipment. Those familiar with Jets Pizza will know exactly what this is. It's a rectangle deep dish pizza. Detroit style comes in 3 different flavor combos, if that's what you want to call those. That's the terminology I came up with. Anyway, all 3 are great, but my favorite is the 3 cheese. And the 3 cheeses are Wisconsin, brick cheese, white cheddar, and Fontina. And I am not a cheese guy, but I am a Detroit style guy, very much because of the thick, pillowy crust. Airy on the inside, but crunchy on the out. And Outsiders has caramelized cheese around the outside. So This pizza is absolutely a knockout. And if you are like me and you like to doctor up your frozen pizzas, this one is the ultimate canvas, my friends. I get this thing and you can put any number of like fresh toppings on it and it's good to go. It is as close as I can get to ordering straight from Jets myself.
Well, good luck. If that's your number 2, then your number 1's going to blow my head off.
Well, I think the thing that we are kind of missing in this whole discussion here, and I want to be the one to fill that blank in, is this. The benefit to a frozen pizza, where it might be lacking in taste as compared to something you might get in delivery. I'm a pickup guy, by the way. I prefer to pick my pizzas up, not have them delivered. But the thing about the frozen pizza that really catapults it, not past a legit pizzeria pizza, but makes it awfully close, is the super convenience of it. Like, you don't have to have some strange dude showing up on your doorstep, knocking on your door, interrupting your night. You don't have to stop. Yeah, you don't have to stop whatever you're doing and go pick up the pizza. I like to have a few beers before and after the pizza. So popping one in the oven is really, I love it.
That takes pickup off the shelf. But you're right. I mean, convenience. And if you think about frozen pizza, I mean, how frequently, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I highly doubt it, has somebody looked through the fridge, looked through the cabinet, been like, man, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Opens the freezer and goes, ding, ding. There's a pizza. You know what? I'm just going to do that because I can go do something and be productive for 15 minutes while this thing cooks. It's going to be delicious. And I think that's the thing that's fascinating about these frozen pizzas is how consistent they are, right? Because it's not like with any of these brands that we're mentioning that like, you're like, well, it's usually pretty good, but sometimes they jack it up, right? And I will say with the pizzeria, I've been to a pizzeria before. Well, sometimes you'll get the pizza and you'll be like, did the guy do like donuts in the parking lot with my pizza in the passenger seat? Because the cheese is all stuck to the roof of the box. And what is going on?
Do you remember Pizza Hut used to have the little tables that they would put in the middle of the pizza to keep
yeah.
For some reason, I thought those were really cool as a kid.
Dewey still uses those. That's the only place I really eat a lot, you know. And I'm sure at some point we'll have to have an episode with top 3 pizzerias as well. But
talking about places jacking up your pizza, and look, I guess we're going for no sponsorship at all. We've already shot down. There's already been shots fired at McDonald's, and now here I go with another company.
We love you, Mickey D's.
So Domino's, have you seen the Domino's commercials? They're all over the place right now. You cannot avoid them. They're annoying as hell. But basically the commercial is telling you, hey, at Donato's, we've decided if we screw up your pizza or if there's a problem with your delivery, we'll fix the problem. We will give you a new pizza. Like, oh, what a wonderful idea.
Domino's, not Donato's, though, buddy.
Oh, I apologize.
No
that
worries.
is Domino's. Yes, yeah. Domino's has decided that they will fix your pizza if there's a problem with your order. Like, shouldn't your company have? Like, shouldn't you start with that? Like, that should be something that 30 years later you came up with this great idea.
So this is probably something across even more than just pizzas, but I've got a pet peeve and I'm just going to unleash it here. It's when I look at something and you know, it's on a box or it's on an advertisement where it says, now using fresh ingredients. And I think to myself, what in the hell were you using before if it's fresh now?
Yeah. Or now has 100% cheese. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah. 100% real cheese versus that fake cheese.
I've been eating this for 10 years.
I might need to go see a doctor immediately. I don't know what's happening.
Well played, Nick or Mark. Well played.
All right,
Mark. Let's hear it, buddy.
That lead me up. All right. Well, I didn't want to spoil it previously, but drum roll, please. Red Baron is my number 2 pizza.
The follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a solid choice. I mean, I think this is kind of one of those pizzas to me. It's not like flashy. You know what I mean? It's not one of those pizzas you're going to be like bragging to a bunch of people like, oh my goodness, you have to taste this pizza. But it's one of those that A, is delicious. B, has that good mix of the right amount of cheese and the right amount of sauce, which let's be honest, that can be an underrated factor, right? I mean, there's
definitely.
There's some pizzas that lack that. But I think even alongside that, and I'm going to sound like an old guy here, but it doesn't make you feel like crap after you eat it. Because there's some of these pizzas that you eat and you feel like you're not moving anywhere off the couch for the
Those are the ones that have 50% real cheese.
Yeah, those are the ones you put the paper towel on and it immediately turns into an orange collage.
So, Mark, topping on that Red Baron, hit me.
I got to go pepperoni.
Old classic, right?
Classic. Just get your protein in on top of the cheese. So, keep it balanced.
That was my same pick. I totally agree 100%.
Bam.
Hard to argue against old Red Baron. All right, so let me follow that up with my number 2 is
Mr. B.
Add another drum roll because I basically just like the copy off you is also Red Baron.
Bang.
So, though I'm going to go a little more specific, the Red Baron brick oven. It's a little bit newer than the older Red Baron, and topping always classic pepperoni. It's hard to beat that. But what when I kind of looked more into it a little is Red Baron was actually the brand designed by the Schwann's delivery people. Do you remember that? The Schwann's truck? As kids, so that was, we used to get the Schwann's truck. Schwann's truck when we were kids.
Fast.
Yeah. So I think those are like the first frozen pizzas that we ever had. And so, I mean, I kind of relate, like when they would deliver the stuff, we'd be like, sweet, we're getting pizza and orange push pops or something,
Orange push pops. Good dynamite drop in there with that one.
So, but I mean, now if you look at Red Baron, I mean, there's not just the original crust. There's like 13 crusts and 48 toppings and a million different
Kind of like craft beer. There's so many variations. I mean,
exactly.
At some point, there's a lot of really new ones at the grocery store that you'll see now. And I don't know what half of them are. And it's just like when you go to the grocery store for a 6-pack of a beer you've never heard of. Right. And you're like, do I really want to drop $10? And because some of them are getting up like $8, $9, $10 for a frozen pizza. It's like,
yeah,
man, that's really stretching it,
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So Red Baron's making the list. So to recap real fast, we got Red Baron as Nick's number 3. Red Baron is Mark and I's number 2. Mark, number 3, Donato's, me with the Totinos. Nic with this Outsider's pizza that we believe he might probably made up.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Nic, let's fire it right back to you for the number 1 frozen pizza for Mr. Nic.
So for the record, I sold off all of my McDonald's stock and all of my Domino's stock, and I put it all into that Outsider's pizza. That's why the shots were fired, and I'm presenting
Solid
something
choice.
you've never heard of.
That's a bold move. Bold move. I like it.
Yeah. Well, so here we go, boys and girls. For my number 1, look, there was nothing that one of our great nation's true heroes could not do. And I went with Newman's own thin and crispy Supreme Pizza. Look, one thing that Paul Newman left with us was that he perfected the thin crust frozen pizza. This has really, really good crunch and is described by most as razor thin, which I disagree with. It's not razor thin. It's just the right thinness, the right amount of crunch.
You can't shave with it is what you're saying.
Right, and the right amount of crisp. The sauce tastes like it's from an old school local pizzeria with a little spice to it. The toppings are Italian sausage, uncured pepperoni, and peppers. The toppings are, to me anyway, the freshest toppings for a frozen pizza that I have found. I don't dress this one up. I just enjoy it as Paul Newman intended, and that's with a big, cold beer.
Very nice. Plus, Newman is just, I mean, is there anything he makes that's not good?
The stuff he makes is incredible. The salad dressings are great. His medium salsa is fantastic. And of course, I love any of the frozen pizzas that he did. I've heard stories, of course, everybody knows him as an actor, but one of his favorite things was racing cars. He was big into going out on these week-long trips where he would go out and professionally race vehicles. And they said that he was the guy that everybody wanted to hang out with, not because he was Paul Newman, but because he was cooking better food than anybody else at the place. So everybody would stand around and he'd drink beer with you and talk about salad dressing.
I don't even know how to top that story. That's just good.
It can't
I hadn't had that pizza is that newer? Is it a newer pizza? Nick, I don't think it's been around for a really long time, right?
I do know that, well, I'm going off of memory here. I believe that the salad dressings and the salsas I remember seeing them in the stores before the frozen pizza, but it's been a good 10 years or so.
It sounds about right to me, but yeah, I mean, it could have been earlier. Maybe it was on the East and West Coast first, but
it is a few bucks more than like my Red Baron or Totino's. So, there was a time where I would go for those because that's what the paycheck allowed.
Times are tough.
Yeah, now I can drop a few extra bucks to go with Newman's Own. And they send a lot of their proceeds to different charities, which
is always nice.
Makes me feel good while I'm stuffing my face full of pizza and drinking beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well played.
I got a big heart.
Yeah, there you go.
You're doing the world's work there,
yeah,
Nick, while you're
eating pizza, drinking beer, and donating to charity. All in a good 20 minutes. Yeah.
Just not your own, unfortunately.
Your cholesterol is really high, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I had that fairly recently, probably within the last 2 years was the first time I ever had the Newman's pizza. And it is tasty. I will definitely say it's one of those, again, probably for the same reason, just the cost being not exorbitant, but being a little bit more. You got to be willing to take a chance. Because I'll throw my theory out here real quick. Anytime you take a chance on a frozen pizza and it's the first time you have it, there's a chance that it sucks. And now you go home and that maybe it's a special grocery store trip and that's your sole plans for dinner. And you get a pizza that sucks and now you don't have anything for dinner.
It's like walking across a dark gym at a school dance and tapping a girl on the shoulder who has her back turned to you. You don't know what's going to flip around, what you're going to see when she turns and looks at you. But by the time you've tapped, you've already committed to asking for the dance. So I'll tell you what, the thing for me, like I said, I want to kind of push the issue a little bit because it is my favorite. But the Newman's Own pizza, for me, again, if you're going to get the different toppings other than pepperoni, it has the freshest toppings to me. You notice the other two, I recommended doctoring them up.
Yeah,
I love to get a pizza, frozen pizza, and doctor it up, dress it up my way. Hot sauce is almost a must on any frozen pizza. But anyway, the toppings are great on the Newman's Own. For me, the selling point is the crust. Like I don't know how they get it so thin and yet so crunchy. Like it's one of the few frozen pizzas where I can eat the whole darn thing, but not feel like I put on 15 pounds right there that night, because it is thin enough. And I feel like I'm eating and enjoying the sauce, the cheese, and the toppings, not just a bunch of bread.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a difference, man. I mean, I've had some delicious pizzas before, but there's one while we're on our brand, making sure we don't get sponsored by anybody. There's one. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to hold this story just in case it happens to be one of you guys number one. But I've had pizzas where, it's delicious. You're like, holy crap, that's good. But then when you get done eating it, you're like, I'm not leaving the house for a couple days.
All right. So Nick going with Newman's Own, the Supreme, excuse me. All right, Mark.
Supremium.
I like
that.
All right, Mark, let's hear number one for you, buddy.
All right, so I have Freshetta pizza.
Ooh.
I think, DiGiorno was probably the first one that I had that was a rising crust, but I feel like Freshetta kind of took it and perfected it a little bit. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. So I'm a big crust guy because
quite crusty,
if you will. There's a lot of people that, I watch that eat to the crust and then leave the crust, right? And if you really look at the pizza, on most pizzas, that's a pretty significant part of the pie.
It's 12.8%. I did the math.
That was some good calculus right there. So I think when you have a pizza, you got to make sure the crust is good, and Freshetta has that good match of the blended cheese that they do. Their pepperoni's good, but I actually like just the traditional cheese, and I'm kind of like Nick. Sometimes I'll spice it up a little bit myself with some home toppings, especially when you get cheese. It's like a blank canvas.
Is it so, Mark? Is it just one cheese or is it like a multi cheese? like Nick was saying before.
So it's a multi. I think even just their base cheese has 4 different cheeses that are matched.
Oh,
in there.
so Nick's only had 3 cheeses, so you're already one up in it.
Yeah, you're going down.
Is one of them cottage cheese?
That is left off, thankfully, because I don't even know how that would manage the oven process.
Oh well.
And actually, I probably would not eat it at that point.
We could be onto something, so maybe let's table that.
Save that. I'll stick with the fresh mozzarella, although this one doesn't have it. But it's interesting, Brian, that you brought up the Schwann's, because Schwann's was the one that introduced Freschetta pizza in 1996.
Really? I did not know that. See, or maybe they were like, "Hey, Red Baron's doing good. Let's kick it up a notch with a little Freschetta."
And they bought a frozen food producer in France to help assist with that. So
everybody loves French pizza,
right? I mean, it doesn't get more French than pizza, right?
Well, Freschetta may have noticed that the Red Baron brand was, it's really just at the end of the day a Nazi war hero. So why not push something else? Yeah.
Everyone loves some Hitler pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if your neighbor's producing pizza, you got to one up them. So it just doesn't really leave you with many options at that point. You really got to step the game up. But no, Freschetta, it's again, I think it still amazes me with some of these pizzas, just the quality that they're able to get with a frozen pizza. And especially I remember the first time I ever saw a rising crust pizza, and you kind of get it in that condensed state, right? And you kind of feel like you're watching Back to the Future, where he puts the pizza in the oven,
oh yeah,
and expands out to the full size. I mean, it's good stuff, and we're living in a good time where we can have some of the most delicious pizzas ever enter our ovens at the most convenient of times and give us delicious results. What else can you ask for?
It's like when you buy one of those little pills from the science store and you put it in water and it turns into a dinosaur.
Yes,
exactly.
It's exactly like that.
And then you eat it.
Just not as cheesy.
All right, so we're going to move on here. My number one frozen pizza is one that also, like Nick's, might be a little obscure. I'm not sure if you guys have had it before, but it's one that I've not had one that's better. So for my number one is, and I might even say it wrong, Bellatoria is the name of the brand. And
I've heard of it.
It's the one I like. It's called Sausage Italia or Italiana or something. And so I even bought it just because I was just trying different pizzas, and by far the best frozen pizza I've had. Going like what you were saying, Mark, like the crust is like thin, but not too thin, but not too thick. It's got like some seasoning. It's got the crumbled up Italian sausage. It's got a couple different cheeses. Plus the other bonus is my wife likes it. So we both win, because I'm like, hey, what do you want to eat? That's important. Oh, it's crucial. You really got to kind of look at your parameters here when you're picking out pizzas.
Although, you know what? Just a quick drop in, if you don't mind.
Fire away, sir.
So it's actually, you could be strategic in the fact that if your significant other does not enjoy the pizza that you enjoy the most, you could be winning.
There is a second argument,
guys or girls, so I'm not being sexist here. Sometimes, like, honey, I'm so sorry, I forgot you didn't like this pizza. I guess I'm gonna have to eat the whole thing. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, well, and just to add to this, so I had to look more into this pizza because I was like, I don't know enough about it. I just know I like it. It's one that it's actually owned and distributed from Bernatello's something in Minnesota. And if you look back at a lot of the early frozen pizzas, they came out of Minnesota. Totino's is from Minnesota. There was another one from Minnesota. So I don't know what they were doing in Minnesota, but they were kicking out frozen pizzas like gold records. I don't know.
They can just put pizzas outside and they freeze immediately, so they don't do anything.
Maybe that's what it was. They're like, you need a freezer? It's Minnesota, man. It's like 10 degrees out here always.
Those people know about freezing stuff.
But it was, so before it got picked up by this frozen pizza, it was it was called Bud's Pizza. And they were the place that sold pizzas to bowling alleys and bars. So I think that's kind of where they got their, like, you remember, like, you ever had those bar pizzas where you could tell they're frozen and then they charge you $9 and you're like, I'll eat it. I've had a couple drinks, but I'll eat it, I guess. And I think that's where they got their start. And that was in the 70s. So obviously they came a long way. But again, Bellatoria sausage Italia, my number one. Super delicious.
Does that detract from the Italianness of the name that it used to be Bud's Pizza?
A little bit.
Just curious, you know. Well, I'm gonna have to try that. I've seen that one actually going through the grocery store, but again, haven't taken the plunge. So I'm glad we did this. I get a few different brands to look for now.
That's what we're trying to do. We're not only we're educating, not just talking. We're educating. Nick,
as soon as I get a coupon, I'm going to try that pizza.
Well, and so I was going to ask you guys is, so when we're talking about these things, obviously taste is important, right? I don't think anyone will be like, they're going to buy the crappiest pizza, but when does money versus taste come into play? Mark, hit me off first.
So I think it really depends on how often you eat frozen pizza. Because I think one of the reasons that Red Baron's, and I'll just drop in another notable mention here, Tony's Pizza. If anybody ever gotten down on the Tony's Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very affordable, right? So you got to think if you're, I used to be much more of a frequent, but if you are frequent with it, maybe you can't afford a $9 frozen pizza, all the time. But, Red Baron, you can get two of them for $5, right? Depending on where you shop. So I think the economics comes in play, but it's probably definitely a factor.
I think a lot of it too can be age, at least for me, because I feel like I was broke as hell from the time I was 18 to about 27 years old. And
then broke again from 29 to now.
I had a good run of 2 years in the middle there. And
scratch off.
So actually frozen pizza night was a fairly big, it was a bit of a reward to me, when I was younger for so many years living on my own. It was like, get my favorite 6-pack of beer. Well, it wasn't my favorite. It was the affordable 6-pack of beer.
PBR favorite at the time.
Yeah, and the affordable pizza. And what's weird is I remember when I was like 18 or 19 thinking that Red Baron was quite a step up from what I was buying at the time. And I know that the selection has really gotten crazy over the last 5 to 10 years, and there's so much more to choose from. And the prices have gone up because the quality's getting better and the options are getting better, and they're more specific options too. But when I was young, it was like store-bought name, the Kroger's, the chain stores,
Kroger, Giant Eagle,
or Totino's, and then Tony's and Jack's. And I think Tombstone was kind of on its way out at the time. I don't know if
I think they're still around. True. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I remember. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry, I didn't cut you.
It was always kind of those. And so for me, the Red Baron and the DiGiorno at the time was always the big step up. Mm-hmm. And I loved when the Red Barons were on sale because they would drop them down to the price of all the other ones that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And I'd always go Red Baron. And if I had a few extra bucks in my pocket and the choice was DiGiorno and Red Baron, always went Red Baron because it was just so consistently good. And so Red Baron always will hold a special place in my heart. But, that's always kind of my go-to. But these other twos are the other two that I put on there that I think taste better, but they're also, it's more of like if I want to step it up a little bit for a night. But the regular thing that ends up in the grocery cart is the Red Baron.
There you go.
Amen.
Well, and I was, even as you were talking, Nick, I was started thinking, like, how did I pick out that Bellatoria? It was on sale. So, I'm looking at the 500 pizzas and I see, $8.99, $7.99. I'm like, ooh, $4.99. I'll try this one.
Never tried this one before.
And I went back 3 weeks later and it was back up to $8.99, but I already had it. So I was like, well, I know this one's worth it. I'll get it. But I tend to do that. If I see a slashed price, I'll buy it. And because I figure worst case scenario, I'll eat 2 pieces and then see if my wife wants it. But it's I guess I somehow there's still a price calculation in my head when I'm looking at frozen pizzas versus I'll go to Dewey's Pizza and sit down and get a $25 pizza, no problem. So it's something about like frozen pizza and price that I do in my head. I don't know what that is.
But I think with food, everybody takes that into account. right? I mean, I
Mhm.
think, subconsciously when people go shop, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, I think, when you go and you shop and you look, there's always some trepidation when you try something new, but if there's a steep entry price to that newness, it's a little harder to bite off than
Exactly.
if it's something low level.
Well,
but,
plus,
but
you just also used a huge word. I mean, come on, man, bring it down a little. Trepidation. What's going on there?
Yeah. Let me simplify it a little bit. Actually, I will use one more big word because I don't know if this was mentioned. Did you guys know that there was a squadron of airplanes that actually was used to promote Red Baron?
Yes, I did know that. And and as I'm looking at Nick's face, he looks like he just fell over.
Not know that. And you might think about this next time you pick up that pizza. There was a 5 vintage team of planes that flew. Now they announced
Nazi
2007.
Yeah, they might have.
They were modified to say the least, but they attended actual air shows and did like the formation acrobatic or aerobatics, I guess it's called,
whatever it is. But imagine not obviously it's cool, but the cost, like jet plane fuel and all that stuff. You're like, oh, we did a little flyby that cost us $270,000.
Yet somehow they're still not charging $7.99 a pizza. Gotta love it.
Can I throw in some honorable mentions?
Please.
You know what, Nick? I'll allow it, buddy. I'll allow it.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah.
Totino's, always going to be a favorite. There's something about it. Like it's weird though. Like it's almost like Totino's puts no sauce on the pizza at all. It's just like bread that's like full of these giant air pockets,
right?
And then cheese and little like chunks of some kind of meat that they say on the box is pepperoni, but we're not certain.
No, I think it says contains some pepperoni.
But it doesn't matter because the Totinos are fantastic. They're really good. I've not had one of these new square or rectangle deals yet. I've only had the old school.
Hey, when this stuff clears up, Nick, I'm bringing over a case of them, and we're going to party with some party pizza.
Totino's is like the Nike Air sneakers where you had that little air pocket in the bottom of the
It made me jump higher.
Shoe.
It made me jump higher every time.
So did the pizza. There you go.
I could almost dunk.
Here's a little one that I have to mention because it's a favorite from when I was a kid. The Stouffer's French bread pizza.
Yes.
Oh yeah, baby.
And hang on.
Brought that back.
Who has not burnt the hell out of their mouth on one of those? No, even if you wait the allotted time of 2 minutes, or whatever, and then you take a bite,
sufficient.
Your mouth is ruined for about 6 hours.
But it smelled so delicious. I mean, who could resist?
Yeah.
That's literally when your mind starts going into is it worth the burn at this point?
Yeah.
Do you guys do the place right on the rack, directly on the rack, or do you still use a pizza pan?
So anyone that cooks pizzas that knows what they're doing, you go on the rack, man. You don't mess around with no pan.
False.
And anyone that says otherwise, I will disown them as a friend.
I go pizza stone. I still go stone.
Now, do you keep the stone in the oven
as I'm preheating?
While it's okay, well, then that's a little bit better. Usually I go rack, and then I have foil down on the bottom because you know how pizza starts to, sometimes some cheese will fall off.
Yeah, power move.
I've been yelled at by the wife a few times for the pizza sitting down there, and then the next time you turn the oven on, it smells like burnt death in the house or something.
See, I've got a pan that has little aerated holes. Like if you went to a golf course and they aerated it. And
what'd you get that at Pampered Chef?
Thing, but I used to be a cookie sheet guy. I don't know. The on the rack, I never saw the benefit, or it made it way too crispy for me.
Go on the rack and then come talk to me, and then we'll talk.
Now here's probably the real heresy. And this is probably where both of you may shake your head at me, and maybe a question for you guys before I even answer. Do you allow the oven to fully preheat before you put your pizza in the oven?
100%. I do not mess around with the preheating process.
100%.
And one thing I do want to bring up too is one thing that George Carlin was so quick to point out. It's either heated or not heated. There is no such thing as preheating.
I love George Carlin.
Yeah, see, I don't mess around with it. And actually, I'll add to that, Mark, is, they give you the back of the box says 450 for 10 to 15 minutes. I almost always go 15 minutes, and then I'll go 2 or 3 minutes past their suggested time to get that crispy crust.
Before you even put the pizza in? Man.
No. I'm saying so.
Beyond.
Yeah. So like
he wants crispy. He wants a little crunch.
Me too.
We made a pizza like a week ago, and it said 10 to 15 minutes, and I ended up
and it's still in the oven.
It's been in there for a week. It's crispy as shit. But no, I think I kept it in there for like 18 minutes. So the extra 3 minutes kicks it up a notch.
Well, and then I'm probably breaking all the rules. And I think last time we hung out, Brian, you yelled at me because we did a frozen pizza and I did not preheat. I put the pizza right into the oven.
Yeah, Nick, let me tell you,
the oven goes on 30 seconds before the pizza goes in.
Yeah, let me tell you this, Nick. Here's what Mark does. He's like, hey, you want a pizza? I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. He turns the oven on, throws the pizza in, and then just walks away. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing, buddy? You're breaking every rule. It says preheat to 450. You're not even got a timer set. You're just winging it. Like,
hold on, 450 is the new 12. I've never seen a pizza that preheats to 450. It's always 425. What kind of pizzas are you cooking over there?
I like the crispy crust, man. I like the crispy crust.
That's that. All right, I'm with you. No, in regards to the cook time. So I'm always getting yelled at for this. I am constantly the over the cooking time guy because to me, the cheese on top has to have a slight little brown to it, right?
Yep.
Because there is nothing worse to me than goopy cheese. I don't know how else to put it. It's like it's cooked, but it's like not
because the frozen process. I think it does something to it. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Nick, what do you think?
Really be cooked.
I go extra cooking time as well.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just Nick, I know that, you might go over to Mark's house, be prepared the way he cooks a pizza, because you probably will get in an argument.
So I'll make you guys a deal. I'll put my pizza on a rack. Next time, try yours without preheating. And I would bet money that you can barely tell a difference.
I disagree, but
you guys are trained. You're well trained. I'll give you credit.
I'll try it. I'll try it, and then I'll text you and be very upset about it.
Okay.
So we have 3 fairly intelligent gentlemen here coming up with pizzas. Their top 3. We end up with a total of 7 different pizzas to choose from. That means every one of us with the Red Baron on the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and
I'll give a quick honorable mention here real quick because I dropped a few of them already, and I know I said the DiGiorno, and this is my veins I think are clogging up just saying this, but the DiGiorno stuffed crust pizza.
Yeah, you brought that
probably.
One up.
No, I was talking about regular DiGiorno at that point.
Okay,
the stuffed crust pizza has the extra layer of cheese inside of the crust. I told you I'm a crust guy. So to get that extra layer of cheese inside the crust when you have a special dipping sauce to go with,
boom,
is really immaculate.
Well, and I don't know if you've had this. There's a stuffed crust with bacon in the stuffed crust. So
mind blown.
So not only is there cheese, there's bacon. So just to kick it up another level, try that one.
I think next time they're going to put the pizza in the crust.
Yeah, and then the crust it'll just be a bunch of circles of crust. All right, anything last to add, you guys, before we end it off here?
Well, it sounds like no matter how you slice it, we like frozen pizza.
That was really cheesy, Nick.
Yeah. I was going to try to think of a pun, and I have nothing. So, again, thanks you guys for listening. We are the Big Kid Show, and that was our top 3 frozen pizzas. Hopefully, you guys stick around and listen to us next time. Take care and have a great, great day.